All right, everybody, welcome to our Amplified Solutions webinar. We're going to be focused on building a listings-based business today, and also using Follow Boss and Fello to do so. Also, extra excited, we're going to give you guys a bit of a sneak peek at the new Fello Follow Boss integration. So really excited to dive in and show you guys that. My name is Lee Adkins. I'm the Chief Learning Officer at Amplified Solutions, and I'll be your host for today. But I'm joined by some awesome people from the Fello team. Ryan, why don't you say hello and introduce yourself first, and we'll make sure everybody gets a chance.
Hello, my name's Ryan, and I'm wearing a collared shirt, which is a rarity for me. So I'm excited to be here. Ryan Young, I am the CEO, co-founder of Fello, and also own and operate the Young team, which we'll talk a little bit about. But number one large team in the state of Ohio, number 15 large team in the country. We'll kind of talk about how that's impacted some of the things that we've done with Fello.
Awesome. Tom, tell us about you.
Yeah, cool. Nice to meet everyone. I'm Tom Schrader. I am co-founder and chief product officer at Fello, and I get the pleasure and excitement to build all the cool stuff that our users get to leverage uh, over and over.
Awesome. Love it. Carrie?
And I'm Carrie Kleckner. I'm our director of sales here at Fello, and I'm here to help you get signed up and get started.
Awesome. Carrie, I think everybody probably knows, or Ryan, if you want to tackle this, it's fine. At a high level, can you just tell us what Fello is and what it does before we dive into details?
Carrie, hit him with it.
Yeah, sure. So Fello is a platform that plugs into Follow Up Boss, and think of us as a supercharger that helps turn your entire database into a listings-based business. So we've got a lot that we're going to show you today about how we do that. But here at Fello, seller leads and listings are the name of the game. And our goal is to increase your conversion on that in your database.
Awesome. Hence the topic of said webinar. So also, Chris on my team, our COO, is in the chat. She's going to be dropping some links you guys can check out. Be sure to say hello, where you're joining us from, all that good stuff. But Ryan, let's go ahead and dive right in. So creating a listing-based business, tell us just a little bit about your team for context. I think some people
Yep.
know, but just love to hear a little bit more of your story, and then we'll dive right into building.
Yes. So the Young team, it's funny. I have a coach, John Cheplack, and he always used to talk about the Navy SEAL model. And I kind of always have prided myself on running what I would consider as a Navy SEAL model of a real estate team, the Young team. The Young team, we're 15 agents. We sell rough on average 500 homes a year. Last year we were a little down, but our average agent sells about 40 homes a year, and we normally do that through having a listing based business, right? So we're normally, the last couple of years we were slightly under, but we're normally 60% plus listings. And I think one of the reasons why, and I'm so passionate about this, is we're able to scale our business. The average agent on our team has been on our team for over 6 years because we know how to consistently produce listing opportunities for our team members. I've been out of production for over 4 years, so I used to be kind of the weekend road warrior, going on 4 or 5 listing appointments on a Saturday and on a Sunday, and just selling 120 plus listings myself year over year. And so we've applied a lot of those principles into the product that we've built. And we really try to instill that within our community on how to help agents, teams take more listings and to have more of a strategy and intentionality behind it. As you can see, obviously, a couple of things about Fello. And just about the Young team, we're number 15 large team in the country, named by Real Trends. Fello, we now work with, it's even, I think, higher than this now. This is a little bit of an older deck, but over 40% of the Real Trends Wall Street Journal top 1,000. So we work with the best of the best around the country. And we've actually helped help recreate over 500,000 seller leads out of agents' databases. And we're going to show you how we do that. But and why this is so important. So one of the things I really like to open up with all of these conversations is What is so important to me, and this is just full transparency, young team numbers, right? And I want you guys to just see some of the economics of the business that I've built and that I've scaled. And even over the past 2 years that I've been building Fellow, and I really haven't participated in the young team that much, how we continue to scale a very profitable business with only 15 agents. The biggest thing is if you look at 2023, all the way down in the bottom left, where you see the 224 listing units and the 177 buyer units. What I find is most interesting and why I'm so passionate about helping agents generate listings is look at the commission that we're generating in 2023 and in 2022 and all these other years. Look at the commissions we're generating off of listings. Now, I run a team. My average team member on the listing side gets 30% on a listing. They get between 40 to 50% on the buy side. Our average price point at 398 still yielded an average of $13,000 on a commission that I'm retaining 70% of. On the buy side of 425,000, we're making 9,000. So significantly smaller percentage wise on the buy side than on the list side. And the only reason why I talk about this and I show people is while I'm a tech CEO, quote unquote, I'm really just a real estate guy that has found a way to build and scale a business through listings. And I just want you to see why I feel so strongly about this. And there's nothing bad with working with buyers. There's a lot of great teams that we work with that are 70, 80% buyers based. But I have found that there's a lot of scale and a lot of profitability on the listing side of the business. And I think, Carrie, if you flip to the next slide, we talk about some of the pros and why this needs to be your focus. Not just the profitability, but agent retention. My average agent has been with me over for 6 years because I can consistently produce listing opportunities for them, right? And why are listings so important is you've heard the leads listing leverage from Gary Keller for a long time. Think about the opportunities that listings drive. Every time you have a listing, it's a sign in the yard, which is a little mini billboard. Every time you have a listing, that's a potential open house opportunity. You field inbound opportunities and sign calls. Sometimes our listings are our best source for other listings. People call us and say, "Hey, I saw you. I saw you sold the listing around the corner from us or next door to us. We want to talk to you about selling our home." So you start creating all this organic inbound opportunity, the more listings that you take, which once again creates a really profitable and scalable business. Lastly, and I know I don't want to go too deep into it, but the commissions lawsuit, if you're not thinking about the priorities and this and becoming more of a listing-based business with all the uncertainties and unknowns of what's going to happen once August, the landscape starts to change a little bit. I think it's something that we've had a lot of people reach out to us and say, I need to have a plan and I don't have a plan right now. And my business has always been planned on spending money buying buyer leads. And what do I do now to start creating consistent listings? And so I think the commission lawsuit is just kind of expediting some of our message of the importance of it. And I think now people are really starting to change their tune and position on how they approach it. And really quick, before we talk about how we help people generate more seller leads and how to have a listing-based business, I just want to put a spotlight on probably why over the past 10 years, people have been more focused on the buyer side of the business. Think about every buyer lead that you buy. Normally they're inquiring and saying, "Can you show me this house tomorrow?" Right? "I want to see this house." There's instant gratification. You don't see that on the seller side. Sellers, much more due diligence. It's much more transactional. It's a longer sales cycle. Buyer leads, you can turn up the dial with trust me, Zillow, Realtor.com, all of them will sell you as many buyer leads as you want to buy, right? And so over the past 10 years, we kind of became obsessed with buying more buyer leads because it's instant gratification and there's abundance of them. I find it interesting over the past 5 years, year by year, there was over 100 million buyer leads sold, right? Yet there's only 4 to 6 million homes selling every year. So what we see is all these people are stashing these buyer leads that convert at a really low level into their database. They have no intentionality behind them. And it's just one of those things that I think over the past decade, agents have found that buyer leads is the path of least resistance versus sellers is a longer lead cycle. You have to incubate them. You have to be sharp on your skill set when you're competing because most sellers are interviewing multiple agents, which we might start seeing on the buy side with the NAR settlement or the commissions lawsuit. So it's just going to be really interesting. But I think that it's been a much easier path on the buy side than it has been on the seller side. And now over the past couple of years with such limited inventory, I think agents are starting to realize buying buyer leads doesn't have the same value as it used to. right? They're converting less. There's nothing to sell them. The future and uncertainties of the way the buyer agency and buyer representation works. So I think while it hasn't been your focus, hopefully it'll start to be your focus, and we'll show you kind of how to do so.
Yeah, and I just want to hop in and add to that a little bit on just the side of, to your point, the consistency, the scalability of that, and having a tool like Fellow, Public Records, whatever it is,
Yep.
to be able to really lean harder into that. And to your point, we've all been trained that new leads are better, which they're not necessarily, especially in a world where they're selling at 5 to 10 to 20 times more than actual transactions. But I think, again, you're right. We've literally trained a lot of our agents on our teams as well, right? Like new lead, new lead, new lead. Whereas that prospecting and relationship building is really where it's at.
Well, in my opinion, and what I've observed of running a team is new leads are more diluted now than ever, right? And so they're selling 100 million leads a year, but half of those leads or more are already in someone else's database.
Right.
So I bought a lead on Zillow 7 years ago that's now going and shopping again. Well, they're already in my database and 4 other agents' databases, and now they're in 8 more people's databases, right? And so I think that's why this slide really hits home. We have data, and Carrie will kind of go a little bit deeper on that, but on average, 5% of your database will list their home this year and next year and the year after, and you kind of get where I'm going with this. I always like to ask people how many contacts you have in your database. And I always get this response with like a lot of pride, like 10,000, 25,000, 100,000, and it's like this really prideful answer of like how big my database is, right? And then I ask them this next question to follow up, and it's like, cool, how many of those people in your database are local homeowners? And I always get this like confused look, like, I don't know, how should I know that, right? And it's like, well, why don't you know that? And how do you become more intentional around that, right? And so when we say 5% of your database will list their home this year, and people sometimes think that number sounds really high. If you have 1,000 contacts, that means 50 people are going to list their home this year. If you have 10,500 listings in your database, 20,000, 1,000 listings in your database. But when people think that number sounds high, and I ask them how many homeowners do they have in their database, and they can't answer that. If you don't know how many homeowners are in your database, how do you know who's listing or who isn't listing their home? And that is something that Fello really helps agents do, is start to discover that type of information.
Right. And also, I want to just remind people that if you're worried about all those leads that you bought, the good news, the buyer leads you bought 5 years ago are probably now homeowners that you should be targeting as sellers. So just
100%.
Got to plug that.
For sure. And that's what I always say. That's my biggest win here at Fello. And by the way, I'm going to show you some strategies here in a second of how Fello attacks it. But these are all strategies that you can do with or without Fello. We just make it really seamless and automated for you. But I always say that my number one win is when I take a Zillow lead or a Realtor.com lead that's in your database that you bought 5 years ago. It's been sitting there. You've got their contact information. They're in a pond. They may be on a drip. They heard about your pie day, all that type of stuff. But they bought a home with somebody else and you don't know where they live, but now Fello revitalizes them to have a conversation with you about selling that home. So now you have this trash buyer lead, right, that's sitting in a pond that Fello rejuvenates now as a listing opportunity for you. And that's where that 5% number comes from, right? I think that's what Ryan said. Everybody's like, what? Like 5%? Really? It's like, yes, because everybody in that database, it falls into 2 categories. You're a homeowner or a renter, and there is a third category, freeloader, but the vast majority of them are homeowners, and we just got to uncover that together. So let's dive into a little bit of the strategy and how we do this. And by the way, I'm not going to go crazy into the product today. There's going to be a QR code at the end where you can scan to learn more and do a personalized demo with my team about your database and your setup at Follow Up Boss. But I just at least want everybody to walk away feeling dangerous today and understand, what does the strategy look like? So this is where everybody comes to us, broken funnel, right? You're buying more leads, and there's nothing wrong with that. that, right? Like that worked for a long time, but you bought a lot of leads, you remember to follow up, they go in a pond somewhere, and we just hope that they respond to a drip email saying that they want to list with you. But we all know that's not really how it works. And a lot of that is probably falling through the cracks. And that's exactly what Fello is here to do. I just want you to think about Fello as a plug into your database, a plug into your existing CRM system at FUB, to streamline it and make sure that those listings are not falling through the cracks anymore. You already paid for those leads. Most of them are homeowners. 5% of them are going to list their home. How do we make sure that that's going to happen with you? So these are the 3 strategies that we use to achieve that. And these are the 3 problems that all agents and teams, no matter where you are in the country or the size of your team, or if you're a solo agent, every single one of them comes to me with these 3 blind spots that we solve, right? So at the top of the funnel, it's all about generation. So we do that through turning your buyer leads into seller leads. We also have some tools here I'll show you in a second to help make your website and your other marketing stickier for sellers, right? A lot of that currently is set up for buyers. The second thing that we do is we put everything on automation, and it's not just drip campaigns, it's the right messaging to the right homeowner about their property at the right time, right? That's super important. We'll get into that in a second. And the third piece is we are plugged into all of the national data to actually show you where you're winning and losing today. Everybody knows where they're winning. I don't need to tell you the listings that you got last year, but I'm here to show you what you lost and how we can actually go convert out more of that bucket. So diving into each of these tactically, how we help you with that here at Fello. I like to start at the bottom, turn your old database into new listings, right? So we've got to start by going through that database and attaching home addresses. That's like the first, that's number one. You can't have a listings-based business on a database of buyer leads, right? So that's the first thing that my team is going to help you with when we get here. We're then going to improve your website conversion as well as all of your other marketing access. So all of the strategies that you're going to see on the next slide with Fello, not only are we doing it on automation to your database, but we're also going to copy and paste that throughout your website, your current newsletters, your direct mail, your signage, your social media, right? Like we want to strengthen your entire database at the top of the funnel to attract more sellers, right? Then from there, we're going to put all of them on automation. And this is where Fello really stands out. We are not sending the same messaging to everyone. It's not just like a blanket home value report or a blanket, are you interested in selling email? This is very property by property, specific relevant information to them about their home. So the experience that Tom receives from Fello is very different from the experience that I receive down here in Atlanta, which is very different than the experience that Ryan is experiencing up in Cleveland, Ohio, right? So we all know that with sellers, you can't be tone deaf, right? You can't talk to a super high-end luxury homeowner about a cash offer. You can't talk to, somebody with a $200,000 house about a super high luxury listing, right? So we really make sure that while this is on automation for you, so you don't have to worry about it, and it is like a drip campaign that you turn on, that you know that it's the most relevant messaging that's actually going to convert them. All of the interaction that's happening on that automation is, and Tom will show this later, it's all being logged in Follow Up Boss for you, right? So I don't want you to think about this as, oh gosh, a whole new system that I have to learn. No, this integrates really well into what you already have in Follow Up Boss.
Yeah, and I'd love to just I know we don't want to get too in the weeds, but I do want to throw a quick plug for your guys' onboarding because it really is impressive and seamless. Like, we've had a lot of people join up and like, great, what can we do to help? And they're like, we got it. And I was like, okay, we just help you use it within Follow Up Boss now. But yeah, it's not as scary as it sounds to set all this up. It's done for you. The magical page on your website, QR codes. It's really impressive. I've seen it work many times, and
yeah, we're super proud of that. We've got a full solutions expert team that on day one, as soon as you sign up for Fello, They're the ones who are going to do the backend engineering on your website. They're the ones who are building the connection into Follow Up Boss, uploading your contacts, helping with all of your tagging. I mean, this is one of those products where you will be up live and running within a week. This is not a drawn out 90-day onboarding process that makes you want to pull your hair out. Like, we're really invested into making sure that it's set up and it's working, but that you've got all the training that you need as well. So we've got a very robust customer success team. You'll have a dedicated advisor who's actually going to be your person there for you forever. So you don't have to just send a ticket into the abyss. Like, we really do take care of you every step of the way. So thanks for that, Lee. I'll end with this, the conversion piece. So this is the biggest blind spot that everybody has in their database today. What is listing without you? So what we're going to show you every day is you're going to get a little email digest of what in that database of homeowners that we've now created for you has gone to market with or without you. And at first it's going to sting, it's going to burn, it's going to be a gut punch, and nobody's going to like you at the sales meeting when we bring this up. But that's the only way that we get better, right? It's like, let's put a value on that database that you already have, that you've already built and paid for, that you're proud to tell Ryan that you've got, 20,000 contacts in your database. Well, let's put a value behind that on what the value is on the listings, and let's go after it together. And the only way we know how to get better is to understand what we're losing and then go find how we're going to get better this year. So again, we've got all of the reporting on the back end that you'll see from that standpoint. And my team's going to train you on how to read all of that and implement it into your daily business. So I'll end with this, and then I'll pass it back to Ryan for a few more tips and tricks, and Tom from the integration standpoint. But, here at Fello, we truly believe that, like, the winning teams of the future, and Ryan teased the future of the commissions lawsuits, like, the future is listings, and to build a listings-based business, you need to transform that database that you currently have into an asset that is every single day. Like, let's go back to this nice clean funnel, bringing you listing opportunities, right? And that's, at the end of the day, these are all tactics that we use to get there, but that's really the ultimate goal.
Yeah. And one of the things I think is super important is we at Fello, while we build software, what's bigger than the software we build is our mission to helping agents have a listing-based business and to become seller-focused. And so within our community, for example, we're doing right now this 30-day listing challenge where we're empowering everyone to set listing appointments over the course of the next 30 days, and a lot of trainings focused on not just how to use Fello, that's some of them, but also I'm doing live phone calls, and we have other agents doing live phone calls and teaching them best strategies on how to convert and how to convert on the listing appointment and stuff like that. And I say that because one of the things I want to talk about over these next few slides is just a few more seller tips. My team, we list over 300 homes a year normally, which means that we are consistently every month bringing 25 plus homes to the market. And I think that I'm going to make some recommendations, whether you use Fello or not, that are also really important to help you have a listing-based business. And one of the things that
real quick, before you jump in, Chris is going to put in the chat at this point our 30 and 30 playbook so that they can follow along.
Oh, love it. Yeah,
Yeah.
download that playbook. Like, there's just some gold in there. Because how it all started was I actually said, I went publicly in March and said, you know what? I know I haven't sold a home for 4 years, but I'm going to go and set 30 listing appointments in 30 days. And I recorded all the calls, and I started posting them. And next, people were cheering me on. And so now we're kind of doing that within the entire community. But some of the things that you really need to understand, if you're going to become really intentional about having a listing-based business, is you got to understand some of the KPIs and metrics that are from a conversion standpoint and other ways that sellers, the psychology behind a seller that's going to ultimately identify who they choose to list their home with. And so I just want to hit you with some stuff even outside of Fello that hopefully will be beneficial when it comes to taking more listings. And I think one of the things that's important is understanding the different type of seller leads there are and understanding the conversion cycles of those. If you're getting a ton of home value leads, which we help people in Fello do, right? That's the kind of top of funnel, first place to start. What I always tell people is the home value message is universal to every homeowner. Okay. And if you own a home and you get a message that says check out the value of your home, that message is relevant to you. But it's also a pretty low intent, pretty top of funnel type of lead. They're inquiring about the value of their home. They're not inquiring to sell their home. And so if your strategy to building a listing based business is buy a ton of home value leads, and you have bottom of funnel expectations with a top of funnel lead, you're going to be really disappointed. You're going to get burnt out very quickly, and you're going to move right back over to the buyer side of the business and say, I can't play this game, right? So one of the things is understanding the conversion cycles of the different types of leads and making sure you have a game plan on home value leads that take 18 to 36 months to convert. We have data with the real seller data that Carrie was talking about, because we have public record and MLS data, to see that about 8% of those actually go to market within 12 months. So it doesn't mean don't call them at all, right? But just have realistic expectations that 8% of the homeowners that you're talking to through the home value lead are going to list their home in 12 months. But on average, 18 to 36 months is when those leads mature into a listing. Okay. So you have to have some sort of incubation mechanism or automation. That's kind of what Fello does, right? To make sure you stay in front of them until they work their way down to either requesting a professional CMA, requesting a cash offer if you play in that game, or saying they want to sell their home. And the further down, obviously, the shorter the conversion cycle of those opportunities. And I just think it's really important. One of the things that we have found is we try to take home value leads and drive them to cash offer, call to actions on dashboards, sell your home on a call to action on a dashboard, because what we're trying to do is actually push them down the funnel a little quicker by dangling a little bit higher intent call to actions to hopefully help stimulate them down the funnel. And then a couple other tricks. Carrie, do me a favor, pop to the next. So we said that sellers are a little bit more transactional. They do a little bit more due diligence. This has nothing to do with Fello whatsoever. But I think that if you want to have a listing-based business, if Fello is going to create all these homeowners in your database and they're going to market to these homeowners are still going to search for you outside of Fello, right? They're looking at their largest asset and saying, this is a really important transaction to me. Who is this person that's messaging me? Your Google My Business profile is so important. If you look at the Young Team, over 1,100 five-star reviews. When you Google the Young Team, you see a lot of content about selling your home. And I just can't tell you how important it is that it's like the psychology of a seller is going to not only get all these messages from you about their home value, but then they're going to go outside and start searching for you. Can you be found? If I search your name right now, Ryan Young, Cleveland, Ryan Young, Realtor, Young Team Real Estate, are people going to find you on Google, or are they going to have to find you, right? Like if they can't find you, if your profile doesn't essentially find them, you are going to struggle when other people's profiles are front and center, and they're going to start to be attracted to those. They're going to start doing due diligence on those. So then once they go to Google, they're going to go to your website, right? They're going to click on that top link right there, and they're going to land on your website. And does your website has seller messaging? So this is above the fold. If you go to theyoungteam.com, I have 2 call to actions. Both of those widgets were put on by Fello. That sticky banner at the top, how much is my home worth? As you scroll down, that's going to ride with you. We actually have a pop-up that happens by Fello within 3 seconds. It says, check out the value of your home. And then we have a little bit of a stronger call to action, which is get a guaranteed offer on your home, which is a widget that was put on by Fello. I can't tell you, in my opinion, this is just the way I approach having a listing-based business. To take real estate in the hero banner with buying a home, in my opinion, is a waste. The majority of buyers search homes for sale in city, right? Homes for sale in Pepper Pike, homes for sale in Ohio, in Cuyahoga County, whatever it is. Most buyers don't search for an agent, and then when they get to their site, they search for homes for sale. Zillow, Realtor.com, Movoto, Homes.com, they're going to take all of those buyer leads and send them to you. Now, it doesn't mean that you might not have some PPC campaigns that are driving them to landing pages on your website that have those IDX searches, stuff like that. But very few people are going to land on your homepage with the intent of buying. But remember, the seller psychology, sellers are looking for an agent. They're doing their due diligence. They're interviewing multiple agents. I want a seller to go through this seamless journey when they think about selling their home, that they Google me, they can find me, they go straight to my website. There's a really compelling call to action is the first thing they see. And what I'm doing is I'm really I'm really validating and instilling the confidence in them that I am a listing-based agent, right? And then if you were to continue to scroll down my website, you'd see all these success stories and information about the guaranteed sale and all these other things that we do. That's all information that's relevant to sellers. Okay. We still have some buyer stuff on my website, but it is much more predominant focused on seller messaging. Okay. The last thing is there are some KPIs that I think are really important, especially as you go deeper in having a listing-based business. And I'll kind of fly through these. If you don't know how many homeowners you have in your database, it's going to be very hard to start achieving that 5% of your database listing their home with you. Fello does a really good job helping expose that. How many seller leads are you generating a month? I know for the young team, we see about 250 to 300 that come down, that reconvert through Fello, which we keep an eye on that month over month because that's a leading indicator to listings 6 to 12 months from now. What is your listing conversion? How many contacts you have to make to appointment set? Basic sales metrics, right? To what does that look like from a close standpoint? But I think as you start to have a listing-based business, a couple other really important KPIs to look at, what's your average days on market? Right now, the young team has about 40 to 45 active listings. If your active listings take 60 days versus 90 days versus 30 days, well, that impacts how much from a bandwidth perspective, how much you have to invest into those properties. That impacts the economics of having a listing-based business. So if you don't have a strategy to price homes appropriately and you don't look at how long they sit on the market, I think you're going to all of a sudden get really discouraged when your average days on market is 60 days and your sellers are beating you up because their homes aren't selling, right? So that's something that the young team really looks at. What is your average commission? I told you that the young team, on average, when you looked at that 400,000, and we see about 3.35% of those is what our average commission is, about 13,000. That's something that we watch every month because that's a variable. We have a variable commission just like anyone. We can list at home or whatever we choose. And if you're not holding that number accountable, that actually impacts the economics of your business significantly. So we actually sit down with our agents to talk about where they're listing properties at. Are they moving too quickly from a negotiation and can't articulate our value? Are they giving up their own commissions and inspections from a concession standpoint as an inducement to sale? So it's one of those things that it's like, I want to make sure that you guys are really watching closely the commissions, the commission you're taking, because at scale, that moves the needle significantly. And lastly, what is your price adjustment strategy? If you're not looking to adjust 10% of your inventory week over week, especially as you get to more standing inventory, all of a sudden a listing-based business becomes more of a liability than an asset. You do not want to be in a position where you cannot move inventory. And if you don't have a strategy on how to adjust it, you're going to put yourself in a little bit of a weaker position where you all of a sudden get beat up, maybe emotionally and financially, by having really stagnant inventory that's not really moving. And so if you don't approach it with the sellers when you're first sitting down on some sort of expectations and strategies around adjustments, that's something that will really help you set realistic expectations when within 7 days or 14 days or whatever the absorption rate of your market is. If you're not meeting what's happening from an absorption standpoint, all of a sudden you have to have that conversation with your seller and you don't set those expectations. It's a lot harder to get that adjustment versus if you set those expectations up front. So some actionable items, and then we'll talk about FUB and Fello and integrations, all that fun stuff. Step up your profile and website with seller messaging. I feel very strongly about that. Get seller marketing assets everywhere, QR codes, landing pages, personalized URLs. I really like the home value message. Once again, it's the most universal message to all sellers out there, although it's a little bit low intent. We also have some cash offer assets out there, but these should be everywhere on your signs, on your business cards, on your email signature. We're trying to build databases organically with homeowners, get marketing assets everywhere. Build a strong homeowner database by converting buyer leads to seller leads. Carrie talked a little bit about that. If you have a database, what we see on average is 80% buyer leads, and you have no intentionality on converting those to seller leads, you're missing out on a big opportunity, a lot of profit on the seller side of your business within your database. Automate consistent messaging centered around home value. That's one of the core competencies of Fello, is getting email engagement, keeping these homeowners really engaged, centered around the value. Segment your messaging based on property attributes. Luxury properties shouldn't have the same messaging as non-luxury properties. Geographically, maybe the messaging changes, whether someone has a mortgage on their property or not, all kinds of different property attributes that change the message. The more segmented you get, the more relevant that message becomes to the consumer, the stickier the product is or the experience is, the higher the conversion we see. And then start tracking these seller metrics, some of these KPIs that I mentioned, and start building a seller-based business.
Absolutely.
Carrie, go ahead.
That was very impressive. That was less than 20 minutes to cover all that.
So I can take a breath and drink some
Yeah.
water. All right. I'm done. See you guys. It was fun. I made it. I didn't pass out.
No,
You gotta wait till you see Tom's amazing integration, but if you're already hooked, you can scan the QR code. We'll put this up again at the very end. But if you scan this QR code, you go to our special Amplified Solutions landing page where you can book a time with our team to learn a little bit more and what it actually looks like for your database and your market.
Awesome. Highly recommend it. You'll make sure people can get that link as well with the recording. So we'll make that, and we'll send the playbook out with the recording as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That playbook is awesome, by the way. Check it out. It's got scripts. It's got all kinds of actionable things in there. But let's dig a little more into, training for Fello and then Fello itself. And then Tom and I'll get crazy with the integration.
Cool.
Sure. So I'll just kick us off a little bit on training with Fello. Like I said, when you sign up, we take care of all of the technical implementation for you. So you're going to see some really cool stuff with Tom in a second. You do not have to set that up. I just want to make sure that is like loud and clear. We take that on for you. You are going to get a dedicated customer success manager who is not only going to train you in the beginning, but they're going to be with you for life. So as we are constantly we've been doing daily webinars with Ryan at this point for our 30 and 30 challenge. As you're starting to hear these different strategies and ideas that in our Fello community, you actually have someone there dedicated to actually implement this with your business. So we take a lot of pride in that. And then I'm going to tease our Fello Academy as well that is coming out next month that will have videos and resources for anyone to go to on demand implement a lot of these strategies as well. So while Fello is an amazing shiny product and we absolutely love it, like what I love most about Fello is our community as well as our training, because if it's a shiny product that sits on a shelf, it's not going to do anything in your business. So we're really passionate about the implementation piece here at Fello.
It's awesome. You guys really do tee it up I'll mention this because it was this morning, but I was actually on with a client this morning that was going through tuning up. They don't mind I'm sharing this, tuning some value, sending a follow-up email. Hey, I know you guys renovated your kitchen. Here's your updated value. Just simple stuff. And what's cool is the message is pre-populated, but you can edit it. So it's an easy button to hit a button and send it. But you can also say, hey, Sally, it was great talking to you yesterday. Thanks for letting me know about the updates you've made. I've updated your home value. And that's such a more powerful, to kind of Ryan's point, you're moving them down that list, which was also in essence the funnel.
Yeah. And and one of the things that I kind of, I preach and our team practices it is, while the automation in the AVM is a great way to stay in touch with a very large database, we've actually gone so granular with making these manual adjustments. On Fello, you can adjust a home value to anything you choose. And we have all these different, like I would say, kind of like levers you can pull when it comes to the sensitivity of agent relationships centered around AVMs. And I know there's nothing worse when your client gets an AVM that are automated value that is not a true representative of either what the market is or the improvements they've made into their house. And so Fello has multiple AVMs that are presented, and then you have the ability to manually override, and then you have the ability to apply a global override to all the AVMs, whether it's up to or minus 15%. So it's like we give you a lot of control. And I think the reason why this is important is just like you were sending out those personalized emails, we can rely on the system to automate, which is super helpful. But if you can go in there and also tweak the AVMs and send a personalized message, you're going to get even a stickier relationship. And what I try to explain to people is when you look at that conversion cycle of home value leads, 18 to 36 months, who do you think a seller is going to list with after I've been adjusting it once a quarter, every 90 days with a quick little note. Hey, just thinking about you, Lee, market's running hot. Hey, saw this house around the corner. Hey, let me know if you've made improvements so I can make adjustment. Who do you think they're going to reach out to if once a quarter I'm manually adjusting and sending you a little note centered around your home's value? It's kind of becomes like I'm the guardian of your home's value. And it's like there's so much more equity in that relationship 18 to 36 months later when they're ready to list, where they're like, this guy's updating my value every quarter. They're thinking about my house and my value. So it's just one of those levers that, once again, from having a real estate team and just kind of like experiencing some of the automation mechanisms out there and some sensitivity to it. We have a lot of pride within our brands and what we represent. I just think that was a really important component of the way we built Fello.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I would agree with that completely. And for what it's worth, we've compared the values across some other systems, and the values have been very good on without editing. So we did a little homework.
It's all Tom. That's why Tom's here. He's the
That's
value
right.
guy.
I don't know
Tom
about
makes big
that.
Nice.
I just listen. I just listen and do. So,
Fair enough. Well,
no,
I'm
just
excited
kidding.
to talk more about, I don't know how deep we want to go deeper into product, but we just want to dive right into integration. But Tom, so how is Fellow integrated now, and what's going to be different about the true integration?
Yeah, like for all of our clients over the past year and a half that we've integrated, we've used third-party integrations or an API key to do the integration. So that would be like using a Zapier connection, or we also partner with RealSync. So our it's been really good. It works great, and I think that there's a big difference though between what we do today and where we're going. And I think like there are many pain points that we've experienced, I would say, by using third-party tools. And also I would say like a lack of data that allows people to take action in their CRM, because it's not technically possible with third-party integrations. So while it has solved the immediate need, and it continues to solve the need for our integrations that we do have today, it's still like there's a lot of improvement to be had, and so that's what we're really excited about with the upcoming FUB integration.
Awesome. Yeah, so definitely true API integration, more things that talk back and forth more easily. But ultimately said and done, the same product. You can use the same type of tools. You still have your timeline in Fellow. You still have the ability to get to the individual contact record in Fellow. But in the back end level, a lot of cool things you can do as far as making exceptions, or this agent isn't really using Fellow, or this source does something a little bit different. A lot of cool things you can do to utilize that. So do you want to go through some more detail on that, Tom, or do we want to dig into the product a bit? I just want to make sure we can show what we can show, and we don't get too in the weeds with technical stuff for people.
Yeah, I think we could probably jump in, just kind of show a little bit how the integration, like how you set it up, and then maybe we can talk about some of the reasonings why we took some of these strategies in the integration.
For sure. And I know we have some users on as well. I know we have people interested in learning about it. We've got some current users that are on as well. So
yeah, that'd be great. All right, let me find the window. There it is. Perfect. Okay. So what you guys are seeing here, like when you get into Fellow, once this is live and it goes to general availability, what you'll see is that you'll have this option to get started with a FUB integration. While what Carrie was saying is true, we want to do the lift and get the integration set up and working for everyone, just because we would love to ensure that all of the which Lee, all the technical aspects, like there's a lot of things behind integration and automations that go together. And so in an ideal state, there's probably a lot of customization that's needed or would want to be had in the FUB side to optimize that team, how they follow up, like when they follow up, so all those things. So we wanted to solve that through integration itself. So the first step for us would just be configuring it. You're going to take an API key, you're going to generate that in FUB, you're going to pop it into here, and the next step, what you see here, is just getting it set up in sync. So one of the things about our integration at first is that we're doing, which this doesn't exist today, with our third-party connections, is we do full contact syncing. So that's one-to-one database syncing. So that means a contact exists in Fellow, that contact exists in FUB, and along the way, what happens here is you can see that there's like a sync direction in here where we're syncing email to email. We're syncing name to name. We're syncing tags. We're syncing source. CRM create date, CRM user. Again, that's the assigned user. And all those fields are there. And what that does is that at a single contact level, it's showing whatever we show here. Whenever we make an update in Fello, that update happens in FUB. And whenever there's an update at a field level in FUB, it updates in Fello. So currently in the integration we have today, that doesn't happen. Third-party tools are typically based on events, and that is like there is a lead that happens, and then let me send some information when there's a lead that happens. And while that's a really great way to get there, it doesn't give you the granular control that you may want based on non-hand raiser activity, which a lot of us do. That's where you get into, that's where you can start finding the gold a lot of times is in the non-hand raiser activity. So the way that it works for us is you can obviously choose a direction. So that's syncing. I want to sync one way or both ways. By default, we would obviously recommend syncing both ways, but you can take that down to a field level as well. You can turn any one of the fields off that you're syncing. So for example, if you don't want to sync source or you don't want to sync stage, you can turn those off. You can also choose you can choose what values are the source of truth. So like we never want to overwrite the source in FUB, for example. So like when you have a new lead that comes in FUB, we want that to always hold true. So you can go through there. And this is at field level. Some of the things that will be here available, which isn't in this list that we see here, is you'll be able to have email like clicks, postcard scans, last form submit date, number of form submissions. These will all sync over at a field level, which will allow Amplified Solutions to be able to build some automations around like someone who has 10 email clicks. Maybe they haven't become a lead yet, but that's someone who's showing a lot of intent, right? They're engaging with you quite a bit and they haven't pulled the trigger. So is there something you can do? Can you make a phone call to that client? And so this will allow Amplified to build some logic around that on the FUB side based on these.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is so exciting. I mean, I think Tom and I nerded out for an hour about this on Friday and certainly just had to stop because of the clock. But the power in this to push certain things or not push certain things or update this but not that is really fantastic. And the amount of control that you've got in that is great. But I also want to mention, I know we've said this as a theme overall, I want to be really clear. The default setting in this is going to be amazing. You're not going to have to go through and pick these things and do these things. These are for more advanced. We're also synced with Zillow and Sierra, so we want those to sync first so we can overwrite it here, but not there. This is going to give a lot of flexibility to work with all of the tools that you use. So, and again, to Tom's point, you can turn them off at an individual level. If there's some reason that you don't want a source to change, or you don't want certain tags to change, or you don't want the assigned user to ever change, those are all things you have control over. But again, at a high level, it's just going to magically work.
Yeah, it's pretty funny because I think like Ryan, myself, like as we have built Fello over the years, and not in how we go to market and help agents go to market. At heart, I'm a operations automations, like creating ways to optimize revenue for a company, and I think that's what drives my passion into building Fello to help agents drive revenue. It really takes like a lot of expert thinking, which Amplified brings to the table on like how do we optimize your CRM to create all of the playbooks and all the automations and the triggers and the workflows to make it efficient for you to know who to talk to, when you should talk to them, if you haven't talked to them, how long it's been since you last talked to them. All of those things require a lot of thinking around that. And our goal for this integration is to be able to provide as much information with as turnkey as possible so that all of those things can be built out in FUB so that you can really get like, I would say like enterprise level automations and success with utilizing the data that we provide on top of the engagement and the hand raisers.
Absolutely. Yeah, just really want to second that. And then again, to kind of what Ryan covered, then what to say and what to do, how to do these little things that keep you in touch, because it is, again, a longer sales cycle, but it's also more transactional than the buyer side. So again, getting our heads wrapped around this and doing that. And yeah, having separate smart lists for these things, because these are sellers, they are different conversations than your buyer smart lists and automations. So really excited to fire this
100%.
thing up and take it into the
real world. Yeah, we're super excited about it. The next thing that we have on top of like you have this like contact syncing, the next thing is event mapping. So this is what your typical third-party tool is going to do. So when you look at Zap, they're really this component right here and nothing more than this. So you're taking an event that happens. So let's say there's a new lead in Fellow, and when there's a new lead in Fellow, I want to do an action, right? I want to update the stage in FUB. I want to send a message over to FUB. I want to set selling timeline, and I want to map that over into FUB. So these are event-based actions. So you still have that control in the Fellow platform, but you also have that contact level syncing in addition to that. So it allows you to have really the best of both worlds, is that you have this unified database between the two systems. And when we talk about 5% of your database is converting, we would hope that you're touching all 100% of those like on a regular cadence so that you don't miss even 1% of that. So I think like at the end of the day, like we want to make sure that you get some messaging and you're constantly being front of mind for them. So when there's a hand raiser in here, you can set the stage like and like one of the things like Lee and I were talking about is being able to like a lead and then based on a lead type. So let's say it's a home value lead that needs to be routed to a different stage. You can set that granularity with this. So home value lead versus like Brian, when you're talking about earlier, cash offer lead, there might be two different, like maybe the home value lead is an ISA that's working it, but the cash offer lead is we want that directly triggering something for the agent, right? The listing agent on that in your CRM. We want them to do something. So with this integration, you can create multiple events. You can set triggers. So you can go in here and add filters and say that if it's a certain, like if there's a certain tag or certain signed agent, you can go, not to go too geeky on this, but you can really get super granular. You can say that if the AVM is within a certain range, I want to assign it to a certain agent, and you can set those things. So all of these things are capable with the event-based triggers, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's really amazing. Even just as simply as adding a tag, I didn't even see the AVM value when we were talking before. I mean, that's brilliant. You can certain price point to certain agent, certain area to a certain agent. It's
Yeah,
really amazing.
Yep, yeah. Or even like when you're talking about creating stages in FOB, like maybe you have like certain stages that align with certain things. So like align with not just the AVM itself, but again, maybe interest rate, for example. You could say if their interest rate's in a certain range, and let's say that they're or even like their equity position. So you can really get, I think, like depending on who is supposed to be working on these deals and that on the other end, you can really set a lot of preference and I would say strategic direction, or do a lot of things in FUB, like apply a tag in a certain scenario, like based on these. So like
Right.
maybe when there's a hand raiser in Fellow and it comes across and you want to apply a tag that if the estimated equity is over 50%, like this is like hot prospect, like super hot, like get the
Right.
get the lead. So
No,
so again,
seriously, call this guy.
yeah, yeah,
That'll
or
be
maybe
the
if they're
tag. Would be no, seriously, call this guy right now.
yeah, right. Something like that. Yeah. So I think that's what's nice. And events, there really isn't a limit. You can add as many as you want. There's a lot more actions, like triggers that are coming into play here, and a lot more actions that we're working on. We're super early in our alpha beta here that I'm displaying, but we have a lot planned for this that'll add like a lot of granularity for you.
Yeah,
So
and speaking to that at a high level, for people not familiar with the platform, can you at least just give some kind of background concept to like the propensity score? Like that's all natively happening in Fellow anyway. And I realize if people haven't seen the product, they don't know that. But maybe just give a little intel into like in the back end of Fellow, there's you don't just have to do this. There are things in the back end that are showing you their likelihood to move, or they expired, or they listed with somebody else, or whatever.
yeah. So we have a lot of data that we put behind a contact record and their property in Fellow. So not only are we pulling in, we have this consumer engagement data. So this is like, how many emails are opening, how many times they're clicking, how many times they're viewing their home value. Those are really metrics that kind of show intent at an early stage, but we're also pulling in it uses over 500 data points of information as a propensity to list score. While it's not a predictor on listing, it helps you know to reduce overall effort and marketing spend, because that higher the propensity score, which is like the likelihood of someone listing, the higher that score is, the more likely that segment of people will list their home, which means that if you were only had so much time and only so much money to market to a certain group of homeowners, you would want to pick the people who had a high propensity score. It is statistically proven that you will obtain anywhere from 5 to 10% higher conversion on a high propensity client versus a low propensity. So again, not a predictor, but more of like filtering your efforts down. And that's the way we look at propensity. There are a lot of businesses that built around propensity score. I would say that data is data. It does, like, obviously someone who's lived in their home for 7 years versus someone who's lived in their home for 1 year is going to probably sell sooner. Not for sure, but probably. And someone who has a interest rate today of 2% versus someone who has a 10% interest rate today, it's more likely that you might get that person with a 10% interest rate today versus a 2% rate, just because those are impacting factors on decision making.
Right.
Brian,
and
were you
really
gonna say
quick,
something? I think
yeah,
so, 'cause
yeah.
Brian's got
Sorry
a
to
good gauge on this. Yeah.
Yeah, and one of the things I go super deep in propensity, and one of the things that I have found is leveraging a lot of those consumer data points, but most importantly, layering on the prospect's engagement and behaviors. So it's like, because Fellow is an engagement platform, interacting with your database, leveraging not only the people that have been in their home for over 20 years or don't have a mortgage on their property, we layer all those in to identify, okay, without blind, if you had to pick who is most likely to sell, it's probably these people. But then on top of that, you say based on their engagement, I'm going to take this cohort and then take them and say these are the most engaged out of this segment, right? And that's who are really the most likely to actually sell their homes.
Yeah.
We could probably have a 2-hour webinar just with Ryan geeking out on that alone.
Yeah, I
if we
love
wanted
the
to demo the
segments.
It's
software.
amazing. Well,
So,
I'm in for that
it's
one.
legit. It is
Because
legit.
seriously, behavior and predictive, like, you want both, right? Behavioral is on one level more interesting because they're engaging, they're doing things, you know what they're seeing. But the predictive side of they have this much equity, or they've opened every email you've ever sent them, more of those, really best of both worlds, I think. And for people as well, with this sounds confusing or a lot of stuff, these are pre-built segments in your account that you can literally just hit on the left-hand side and see these chunks of a real seller or a high propensity score, or any of those things. So again, I don't want people to think they have to come in here and find these people. It's pretty magically set up to keep those short lists going for you, coupled with having it set up right in Follow Boss. It's fish in a barrel a little bit. I don't want to overpromise.
Yeah, the super nerdy part of me
unfair.
wants to show you guys right now, but we only have 2 minutes left, so I don't. So I think we'll
Right.
pause. But yeah, so I think a good point. What we do, like, one last thing I think we were talking about earlier is limiting. One of the things that we experience today, and it's not really possible with integration through a third party, is what syncs from FUB to Fellow. One of the things that we see a lot is that we only want to sync like certain agents over. So you can go through this integration and say, I'm only going to sync. The only people I want to pull into a Fellow from FUB are people who are assigned to this agent, or the reverse. I don't want to pull in this one agent who is opting out to participate on your team because they have their own sphere, right? Like, and they're going to opt out. So you can filter what comes in. You can go way more granular. You can say only sync with certain stages. You can say that you're only syncing with tags that are available on FUB. This is all filtering on the FUB side of the equation on our side. So you can say, hey, I only want to sync when a certain tag is available on the FUB side. So all these controls are there for you to optimize it. And it's just a closing. This is going to give you a summary, but here's something I think I'll just touch on real quick. Is this unique? We do user mapping, and that is actually when you sign up and you come and you join the Fellow platform, all of your agents that are in FUB will automatically be pulled in, and you can just invite them all at once with their names, everything. Even if there's profile, all that will all sync. It's not live at the moment, the profile image and stuff, but that's all going to sync over. So you don't have to even go through that effort of, let's say you have a team of 15, 20, or even 200 agents. You can just in one shot just sync them all across to our platform. So pretty exciting about it. I think it's going to be a game changer with this level of integration, like with your CRM. And so I think that it'll allow, like, for you, Lee, I think it'll allow your team to do things that you probably you have struggled with to be able to do in the past when you're setting up integrations.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's why I'm super excited about it. We've already thought of a lot of great things we're going to be able to do. We did have one quick question I want to tackle, and then I will give each of us a quick chance to just either give some last words or whatnot. But we did have a question about a landing page. Agents have their own landing page. If you have a team of multiple people, is there a way that an agent could go to that landing page or use that landing page, and then a lead would be assigned to them?
Yeah, so we have what we call their personalized landing pages that are assigned to agents, and anytime an agent that we'll call it a non-admin in the platform or even an admin themselves, but anytime an agent, you can create this personalized landing page. It'll generate a QR code for you. You can share that on social. You can put that QR code on your own marketing, on your own for sale signs. When a lead comes in the Fellow platform and they come in through your personalized landing page, it'll be automatically assigned to you in the Fellow system. And then when it syncs over to FUB, your assignment will already happen. So new lead, new hand raiser, completely new customer that'll come into the Fellow ecosystem through our QR code. It will be assigned to you as an agent when it comes in. And when it hits over to FUB, it'll already be pre-assigned. So Amplified, you guys will be able to build a solution around that, saying if the agent's already assigned, coming through
Right.
Fellow, don't reassign it. Don't, keep it out of routing, round
Yep.
robin. Don't put it in the lead ponds, like all that stuff. So
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, I'm so excited to do this and it's really going to be great. And for reference, I didn't mention at the top, but what we do is help people set up their Follow Boss account with all the tools so that it makes sense and there's a global strategy instead of just, hey, I bought all this stuff and it's going crazy. But we'll include a link as well with the recording if you want to learn more about us. We have a free Follow Boss assessment. But I would love, Ryan, why don't you take us out? Just any actionable items, anything, what should people do now besides sign up for Fellow
I'm
and
so glad you asked, Lee. You should sign up for Fellow. No, my position, right? You know what I'm passionate about, and you can tell within the product. We are just very, very focused on helping agents have, become intentional around having this listing-based business. And if listings is your number one focus, right? I would highly recommend uh, taking a test drive with Fellow if you're not currently on the platform. If it is a priority of yours, right? If sellers and listings is a priority of where you want to move your business to, or if you want to get more out of your seller base or listing based business, let's have a conversation and just see how we can help you and get you into the community where that's what everyone is obsessed with. So I'm super proud of that. It's something I've been preaching for a long time, and I actually feel like people are now more than ever realizing that message is more important now than ever. And so I'm going to continue to beat the drum on have predictability and scale through listings. And if you're not, we are very passionate and excited about helping you do so.
amazing. Love it. Well, thank you guys for being on. Love running through everything with you. We'll send out everything with the recording as well as ways to get a demo of Fellow and keep this party going. But thank you guys so much for being on. We
Yeah.
love the product, and we're going to keep being big cheerleaders for you guys.
Love
yeah,
it.
thank
Lee,
you guys.
appreciate it. See you guys.
Yeah, we appreciate you.
Take care.
See ya.